Rainer bringing it for us here at Challenge Roth, the 12th edition. Rainer, thank you so much. Nothing better than starting out a little accordion playing.
Absolutely.
Our next guest, who is, what do you say, global involved with global development for Challenge Series?
Right, that's perfect description.
And it's Zibi Szlufcik.
Yes, sir.
I said that correctly.
You are amazing, Bob.
Now, Zibi, we go back a lot of years.
Yes, sir.
And when I first met you, you were involved with Power Bar, global operations for Power Bar as well. Talk a little bit about your involvement in endurance sports. When did that all start? Because you were involved with biathlon back in the day, but a different form of biathlon than we know.
Probably, I'm talking about the winter sport, which is cross-country skiing and shooting.
And shooting.
Right, yeah. So you're shooting on the targets, and it's very, very popular in Europe, in Scandinavia. So it's the second most popular sport in Germany, actually.
You were saying that, like television.
Huge. Unbelievable.
The response is unbelievable.
We are getting quotes close to the soccer games of our national team. And this is the number one sport in Germany. And biathlon is getting just close to those quotes.
And as somebody competing in that sport, I think of it, when you're cross-country skiing, it's high heart rate, like the highest heart rate.
Well, you will probably see the fittest endurance athletes in biathlon. Yes.
And then to stop and shoot, how do you try to control your heart rate? What's the technique?
It's actually pretty crazy. Majority of the people think they try to calm down as much as possible, and that's not the truth. They probably will race the cross-country part with a heart rate of 180, 190 heartbeat, and then slow down maybe to 140, 150, because then you feel only one beat of your heart. If you have a slower heartbeat, you feel like a double beat. Bum, bum, bum.
So it's better to keep it fast.
Right. And then it's just reaction shooting, and it's a real training aspect into it.
As a guy who was in the business side of this world, and you were involved with triathlon from the pretty early on.
Right.
What was the attraction of the sport of triathlon for a brand like Power Bar? What did you see in the sport?
I think, the majority or the main reason for Power Bar at this point of time was that the fourth discipline of a triathlon is sport nutrition. You cannot survive a long-distance triathlon without nutrition.
Right.
So proper nutrition was kind of a natural development that Power Bar get involved in triathlon sport. And over the time, as you have said, my heart was always close to triathlon, and then, starting to work with Felix, who I know for more than 15 years, and just part of the Challenge family now.
So Challenge started here in Roth. This is the granddaddy of the Challenge Series.
Absolutely.
And we'll see 5,500 people participating, hundreds of thousands of spectators on the course. What was it about this event that you felt lent itself to a worldwide series?
Well, I tell you one thing. I have been seeing a lot of triathlon races across the globe, and I think without a doubt that Challenge in Roth is the greatest race on earth. It's the level of involvement of the local community, it's the dedication of the volunteers, the athletes, how they enjoyed it, and we have 200,000 spectators.
Right.
And, having this amazing athlete-focused experience at this race, we started to discuss with Felix what would be the best way moving forward to provide athletes across the globe opportunity to enjoy the Challenge family experience. Right. And we start, to grow the series. And by now we are having over 20 races
events
across the globe.
Yeah.
And, receiving tremendous feedback from the athletes who are seeing Challenge family events as I call it healthy alternative.
Right.
It's focus on athletes, focus on communities, supporting, all of the partners and the industry, providing the TV and media people the best experience they could get, and a lot of good editorial insights.
So I look at an athlete like a Chris McCormack, and last year I think he turned 39 years old.
Right.
And you guys signed him to a 10-year deal.
Right.
Usually when companies are signing someone to a multi-year deal, it's their late 20s, early 30s, because they're in the prime of their career. Obviously, Mac is not in the prime of his career, but there's a reason for Challenge signing him to a 10-year deal. Why?
Well, actually, Maka, I know him for a long, long period of time. He's an icon.
Right.
He's not an athlete who can, there are a lot of great athletes around the globe, but he's, a marketing-driven personality.
Right.
And it's a real brand ambassador. And when we get together with Maka, we chat about his future, about his aims, about his ideals, about his philosophy.
Right.
And we just found a perfect match between what we are aiming at as a challenge family and what it's Maka looking at towards his future. And we just started to draft a plan and end up, to run through the whole plan, we'll need a couple of years. And so we decided, okay, let's start with 10 years. And it's a really deep involvement. So it's not only about having Maka on the contract and wearing challenge logo, it's a far beyond that. Maka is a brand ambassador, first of all, but second of all, it's a advisor toward us in management of the professional athletes.
Right.
And in many, many different fields. So Maka is really part of the challenge family.
Really important part of it.
Yes.
So you mentioned that Maka he's more than an athlete.
Yes.
And I know you work with the Rayler brothers, with
Yes.
Andreas and Michael.
Right.
And one of your goals was to make them understand that, yes, you can get results, you can finish first, you can finish second, but in this day and age, if you're not a brand, you really aren't bringing value to yourself and to your sponsors.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the change in, it's not just endurance athletes, it's all athletes.
Absolutely.
Need to become a brand, and what are those extensions? What should they be doing as an athlete?
Right. I think I have great experience being on the end of a brand for a couple of years, and I knew what my expectations are
as a sponsor.
Right. As a sponsor. So, I never looked into a great sporting or athletic performance as a singular aspect of our partnership. It's just much more the way they are interact with the media, the way they present themselves, the way they are representing the brand as an ambassador, the way they are encouraging other people and activate their fields of influence surround themselves within their communities. There are a lot of building blocks towards becoming an icon, becoming an excellent brand ambassador. And this is the way Maka is working. This is the way I think Roth brothers are working. We created together actually a Roth brothers brand.
Yes.
And it's so much different for sponsors to behave to work with athletes who behave as a brand ambassadors than with athletes who are carrying a logo. I really don't care if the logo is carried by someone who is not able to open his mouth and talk really nicely and interact with the media, to really get in the social involvement, to represent the sport and becoming a marketing icons. So I think that's
so the expectations for athletes in this age are a lot different than they were back in the day of
Definitely.
We want you to show up, come to a clinic and then race.
Right.
You expect a lot more.
Well, we see, what's happening with the athletes when they are coming to a race. Like, Maka is even not racing the full race, only in a relay here.
Right.
But his schedule is just out of space. I mean, he's meeting the politicians, the sponsors, the media, representing the brand, having advisory board meetings, and it's an endless story. And, either you are willing to take this as an athlete and see this as a full-time job, or you're just, starting and finishing and taking a medal and going home.
Right.
That's, I think, the biggest difference. And then, of course, in the meantime, social media is taking tremendous impact on behaviors of athletes and athletic communities. And we see, what's Maka or Roth are doing in social media. It's key.
So how big do you see the Challenge Family Series getting?
Well, if I close my eyes and start to dream or, I wouldn't say a dream. I think it's a formal objective from Challenge Family. We would see probably the Challenge Family presented at all continents in the world with a solid number of races, probably ending up with 45, 50 races across the globe, and of course with a World Championship Series. As you may know, we do have the official European Championships with the European Triathlon Union, the governing body of the sport, already together. We are just about, put the similar thing with the ITU, with the International Triathlon Union. And this is, our way moving forward. We are respecting the rules of the governing bodies and hoping very much that we are able to build a World Championship Series in cooperation with the global institutions.
Do you see the Challenge Series in conflict with Ironman? Is it two different groups who are just happen to be in the same space? Do you work together to grow the space, or is it healthy competition? How do you see the relationship between Challenge and Ironman?
Right. I mean, to some extent, we are in the same field.
Looking for the same sponsors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in some way, we are competition. But
Right.
I think the approach moving forward for Challenge is very simple. We want to provide to the athletes unforgettable experience. So
Right.
it's all about athletes as a center of gravity. And we want to build platforms which enable us to provide to as many people as possible to experience the triathlon sport. This means we would rather look into festivals, triathlon festivals, where
Right.
we'll have a women's race, we'll have a kids race, we have a lot of interaction surround
A lot of
the
touch
race.
points.
Exactly, a lot of touch points, excitement towards the sport, and very critical point of Challenge families to be a part of the athlete's journey throughout the whole year. So that's what I can say about the Challenge family. And I know Ironman is in the same sport, but I think their objectives are slightly different. But again, the last thing what we are seeing is a fight against
Right.
Ironman. No, we see that Ironman is a tremendous brand, and they have done a lot of great stuff across the globe to grow the sport.
Right.
And we respect this, and we respect the legacy of the sport, and I think that's critical.
Are you surprised with the growth of the sport of triathlon? Because you think about it, when we all started, running was it, right? Running, hundreds of thousands of runners, and triathlon was a small little pimple. And now triathlon is growing and growing and growing, and the buying power of the triathletes, the demographics. Has that surprised you?
Well, actually, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I have been part of the triathlon community from early days.
Yeah.
I saw, only a couple of races across Europe and then start to grow. And if you talk to the people who are joining the triathlon community, they are former runners, they are former cyclists,
Right.
they're former
Swimmers,
and,
yeah.
and they just look for something extraordinary. And the beauty of triathlon sport, you have 3 different sports, so it's not as challenging to your body as running.
You can do it forever.
Exactly. So and I think I read recently a nice article. It was one of the US online platforms. If you want to reach C-shooters, the most influential people in sport, forget golf, go for triathlon.
It's true.
And this is, referring to a comment on demographics.
Right.
I mean, we are getting tremendous target group hitting by the triathlon sport and getting excited by the triathlon sport and feel very connected to the triathlon sport. And I think that's probably the critical point. They are impactful within their communities. They are the opinion leaders within their communities. And this is how the natural growth of the sport is coming.
Love it. So I just thought you drink beer, and I didn't know there was any special technique.
Oh, man.
So,
You're in Bavaria, Bob.
No, we're in Bavaria. Okay, so what's the deal?
First of all,
Yes.
this is wheat beer.
Well,
So
okay.
you already cheers with the bottom.
The bottom.
Not on the top.
Not in the bottom.
Yes,
Bottom. On
only with the bottom.
Okay.
Then, ideally, you sip it all the way through.
No,
I'm
that ain't
joking.
happening. Yeah.
At least have a nice
I got more
toast.
shows to do.
Cheers. Cheers.
All
Bob.
right. Zibi has been our guest. We're going to bring Rainer in here because beer, accordion, Bavaria, all that goes together. Rainer, it's all yours. That's Rainer bringing it like only he can. Playing the accordion, challenge Roth. This is Breakfast with Bob on Triathlete.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back at you in just a little bit.
Thanks a lot.